Patrick story.
That's right. We're going to need to have a theme to this, at some point in time, so I'll have to put you on the spot. But thank you, Dustin, for hitting the clapper there, buddy. I appreciate it. So appreciate everyone listening to our podcast today, otherwise known as The Bar, Building a Refuge. We have a pretty amazing guest on set here with us out here in wonderful Noblesville, Indiana, LDR Studios, right, Clark?
Yeah, that's where we're
at.
at.
Noblesville, Indiana. You were saying when you rolled in here, you're like, what is going on here,
Looks
right?
like there's nothing out here, and then your dreams come true the moment you walk through daddy daycare.
You said you wanted to, paint the trees when you came in, right?
Yeah, it's just like, need some Christmas ornaments or something out there to spruce the place up.
It's flat and it's brown and right now it's brown anyways because we had any rain. And then there's just some drabby trees. I guess
it's green.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
We'll invite you back for Christmas and you can help us decorate all the trees out front.
You'll just see me out there,
Patrick. It's the heart. It's the heartland of America, man. You know what I mean?
Every week or so, you're gonna be like, you're gonna see me and be like, "What, is he still here? What's he doing here?"
Where are the Christmas lights coming from?
I don't know if he's gonna move. We'll get to it in a minute, where you're from and all this shit. But I don't know if he'd actually say, "Yeah, I want to relocate to Noblesville, Indiana."
I mean, as long as I never have to leave this building, I'm down.
Well, you will have keys to this by the time you leave. So if you want to show up and just come and hang out and jam, you're more than welcome to. So. But anyways, hey, before we get going, we want to share a couple of resources, the kind of background a little bit on Building a Refuge. We are a mental health organization, nonprofit. We kind of do things a little bit differently here, but we still do address the fact that it's important, and I think we need to bring some awareness around it. And so anyways, you can text the words refuge to 494949. It's an anonymous, really cool interactive chat line that you can go out and have interactions with. So there's a lot of folks, I think, kind of like that because they just don't want to come right out with it and be like, hey, man, I'm going through some shit or whatever. And so that's a cool resource. The other is the National Suicide Hotline anyways, and they've condensed that a little bit to 988, which I think is a really good thing because if you can save a little bit of time by doing that, that's a huge help. So.
Right. How many people are like, I'm going to kill myself if I got to look up that number?
Right, exactly, right? And so a little bit of conditioning, I think, goes a long way. And then as well as we always do, we want to thank all of our veterans that are out there. So there's a helpline as well that you can reach out to for all of our vets. And that number is one. I got to look at some of this because I get all these numbers in my head and I can't like get them all straight. But 1-800-273-8255 is the veteran hotline. And that's very important to us as well. So we appreciate all that our veterans have done for us.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So Patrick Stone, man, welcome to the bar.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, right?
Thanks
this is
for having me.
we're pretty
coming in, man.
Pretty jacked up. Last night we got to see you rock out with Sweet FA, which is pretty cool. I was telling Clark, man, this is an interesting place that we're at tonight with clowns and
E.T. and
and what was it, the Killer Santa Claus?
All the sad clown girls.
No, they were cool, man. We hung out till late. Nikki had to pull me away from them.
Not
She
bad.
was
They looked like trouble to me.
It was an interesting scene I had never been to, and what we're talking about here is Day of the Dead. Days of the Dead? Days of the Dead, yeah. So multiple Days of the Dead.
Yeah.
I had never been to a horror film convention before in my life, so that was the first time for me.
Sick.
I thought that I'd be super cool and roll up on a Harley, but nobody could give a fuck whether I was on a Harley Davidson or I was painted up, ready for this deal. But yeah, it was pretty intense, man.
Yeah, those things are cool, man. I've always been a big fan of Comic-Cons and all of that stuff.
Well,
yeah.
Flash Gordon was there, so
Right.
I mean
He's
that.
dated, yeah, we're gonna try to sneak back today. And see
That
Sam
alone
Jones.
it was probably the coolest. And the dude from Lost Boys, what's it? Patrick.
The saxophone.
Yeah,
player, right?
yeah. So he was there, and then I saw Sherry.
Yeah. Sherry Curry.
From the Runaways. Yes,
Sherry Curry,
yeah.
She
That was
performed right before we did.
that
We
was-
were hanging out, man. It was crazy. We were at sound check, and she was complimenting the sound, and I was just like, "Oh, thank you so much." And then my buddy's like, "Dude, that's Sherry
I know,
Curry
from
the
fucking
Runaways."
Runaways.
I was like, "No way, that's way too young to be Sherry Curry. She's got to be super old by now, and she looks so good, and she sounds so good. She's got
Yeah.
this fucking really cool rock and roll attitude."
Yeah.
We were having some problems with the in-ears and stuff. She's like, "Why do you fucking need those things, man? This is fucking rock and roll."
You're just like, what?
You're like fucking Sherry Curry. Fucking
Just setting you straight
Yeah.
right off the bat.
Yeah. I was telling Clark, I was like, I can't believe the fucking Runaways.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. But yeah, it was a neat, really really kind of cool convention. You guys killed it, man. Like I have to tell you, like there's some history right back in the day as we were talking about a little bit earlier, you know, with Sweet FA, and God love them all, man. I love all those guys. They're great friends of mine. We're gonna call out Nikki, Tricky, Brad Lane.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
He's not here. I'm pissed, but you know, we're giving a little shit anyways. But
man. Soothing souls, man. Those guys are great guys.
yeah, we had a lot of great fun with those guys back in the 90s. And I mean, here's the thing, like I worked at a place called Karma Records here in Indianapolis, and I think that probably was what I don't know if it amplified. I already loved music, but I think that just probably amplified it a little bit more. And then those guys just fucking throttled it up. Like it was some fun times.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but so anyways, hey, let's get into this thing. Patrick, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're from California. Give us a little background on where you grew up and all that fun stuff.
Talking about the Lost Boys movie, that's where I'm from. The Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk.
Yeah, right on.
We were trying to keep up with the vampires since day one, man. We all thought we were Kiefer Sutherland, and you know
that and the surfers trying to keep up with the surfers, right?
Yeah. But that place has definitely got this haunted vibe to it. You know what I mean? Lots of people died on the roller coasters and stuff, so there was kind of this eerie feeling there. So it was a very well chosen location to shoot that movie. But but the redwood trees and everything else, you know, my friends and I would always escape out into the mountains, and just, you know, it was a bohemian kind of an upbringing. We were all smoking weed and doing drugs and writing songs and, you know, playing Led Zeppelin around the frickin', you know, the bonfire at the beach.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it's a neat. We've spent a little time. My wife and I, Sherry, of 30 years, so I'm a blessed guy. But we've spent. Yeah, she's over there. We're trying to get her to get some get some headphones on and sit in, but she's like, no, I don't want to do that. But yeah, we spent some time up in Northern California, man. It's a cool place, man, and I can't imagine like growing up there.
Yeah, I mean, everybody I knew we were all crazy as hell, just wild. But at the same time, we had some of the best schools in the nation. So it's like, you know, during the day you're getting this great education, and everybody, you know, Silicon Valley is popping and growing, and you know, there was this big bustle. So everybody felt like really, it was safe. It was a good place to grow up.
How did you like back in that day? Like what? I shouldn't say back then, like we're fucking 100 years old, but you know, back then I should say, right? I don't know. I mean, like how did you get into music, or when did that kind of hit you? You know, like, hey, you know, I like this.
It's kind of the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
My sister had this just amazing LP collection.
Yeah,
she
right
had
on.
all of this vinyl, you know.
Yeah.
And I think some of my first memories came from, you know, staring at Highway to Hell, you know. Being like, who the hell is this devil guy?
Right.
Why am I so interested in him? Or, you know, turn over If You Want Blood, and there's this guitar stuck into a guy and blood everywhere. And I was just like, I don't know, something was drawing me into all that. But she had all kinds of records, and, you know, the Supertramp stuff, and like, you know, Boston, and all of these vocals that were they just bestow this energy and, you know, this hope. And
so how much older was she than you?
She was a good 8 years older than I was.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, she had a good head start on me.
I have a sister that she turned me on to Kiss at a young age. She was a part of the Kiss Army back in the mid-'70s or whatever. She had this tape case that you opened up with all the 8 tracks.
Oh, nice.
Had the big sticker in the back of it, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, this looks pretty cool.
Yeah. So that was my whole kind of introduction to music, was sitting on her bedroom floor playing records.
Which one did you listen to the most?
Probably the Highway to Hell record.
Yeah.
You know?
That
was really cool. Supertramp, Journey, Tattoo You by Rolling Stones. She had good taste.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
So, and what was her name?
Devin.
Nice, right on, man. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, you know, when you have, I mean, your career is pretty amazing. We're going to get to some of this in a little bit, but amazing bands that you've had experience with. And I think I've had the opportunity to listen to, I think, 3 of your podcasts in the past. And so did a little prep work before having you come in, because as you and I were talking, I didn't have a lot of background outside of being introduced to you through Sweet FA, right? And I was like, fuck, this man's killing it, you know what I mean? And so, and then as you and I were kind of talking back when you guys played here in Greenfield, you know, gosh, I was back last November, I think it was. Did you mention, you know, that you had lost your sister to suicide? And
we were talking about Steve and his father passing and how it all happened. And I didn't get the chance to meet him, but yeah, what a tragedy. You know? But tragedy sometimes for some people, at least for me, it's like I've been through so much of it. It just seems like a part of life, so you finally got to turn it into something good.
What'd you call it, Clark, on yours?
Life's a tragedy filled with joy. That's kind of...
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I mean, just on the other side of every tragedy, there's a miracle waiting, and you've just got to be strong enough to get through it. It's just like the ocean brings in a wave, and you watch the wave going out. You can either be sad that the wave's going out, or you can be excited about the wave that's creating that's coming.
Yeah,
in.
right on. That's a cool way of looking at it. I mean, I love that you see that way just because of where you're from, and you see the ocean, that often, right? And you can look at that's really super cool. But I mean, all three of us kind of share that commonality, anyways, as it relates to losing somebody to suicide. I lost my brother in 2015, and Clark lost his son 3 years ago, and that's really the whole thing about us, creating Building a Refuge, and really our mission is one story at a time, right? And so your story, Patrick, you and I kind of have a commonality there, losing a sibling, and seeing what it does to our parents, and seeing what it does to the family, and seeing all that stuff, right? But I think like you, me and my wife and our family have decided, like, man, we want to do something, right? Like, we want to be able to just bring some light to this in a dark time, I guess, or in a shitty time that families go through. And that's one of the big reasons why we started Building a Refuge. Like I said earlier, our other co-founder here, Erik Robinson, he was an attempt. Right, so he brings a whole different perspective kind of to the mental, I call it wellness, man, because I think when you put mental illness to it, people get really, like, there's a problem, right? Like, there's a problem.
But everybody's okay with every kind of other illness, physical illness.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a weird stigma. I don't know. That's why we're here, right?
And and it's the big reason why, like, we love having guests like you come in, and I think, look, man, and we don't ever put this out there either, but I'm a strong believer in Jesus Christ, man, and how kind of how we, came to meet one another, or at least me getting some visibility to you is beautiful, man. Like, I was just floored. Like, Sherry and I, man, when we were at that show and you brought that up, dude, it just almost sets me back in my seat. I'm like, all right, man, I'm listening. I'm going to reach out to this guy. Yeah,
we need to share. If it wasn't for sharing and people reaching out and, like, being there, probably even when they weren't planning on or didn't want to, but they did it, without that, without things like this, I probably wouldn't be here. If we're left to our own demise, we'll follow that damn devil down.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
down
right?
the hole,
Yeah, and you bring up a great point, like you just mentioned earlier, man. You have a choice, right? And I think it leaves ripples. I mean, the ripples still, we see them today. I mean, I'm sure you do
forever.
too. Yeah, I mean, and they're not going to go away. They're kind of like if you throw a rock in a still lake or still pond, man, those ripples will go on forever if they don't have a boundary. Yeah. But once they kind of crash against that boundary, that's really where that friction happens, and it's pretty wild. But so as time happened right around that time period when you went through that experience of losing your sister, tell me a little bit about just kind of how and kind of things post that kind of progressed.
She, it was crazy because it's just like it seems like everything spun out. Every time I go back and look at it, it almost gets causes a bigger lump in my throat because it starts to make a lot more sense. Yeah. And at the same time, I have to remember that, again, while we're here, it's like I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't have had the tenacity that I've got that's gotten me to this point, which I'm super proud of. And it's because I've lost her and so many other people. I mean, I had two of my best friends from high school committed suicide as well. It's not like I felt like everybody around. I felt like it was going to happen to me too eventually. Yeah. It's just like it was like you could have called us the Suicide Squad. Way back then, it was just like everybody was just like, okay, let's party. Let's just have a great time, and that's it. Peace out. I honestly didn't think I was going to live past 33, and that's when my entire life changed.
I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, I don't know, man, when you grow up, like, God, I say this, like, even the short period of time, like, that I spent around a lot of musicians back in the day, right? I'm like, oh, I'm really kind of living this scene. This is fucking cool, you know what I mean? And you're out partying with your friends, and you're going to see music, and you're hanging out backstage, and you're doing all these crazy things, right? But then I look back on it now, and I'm like, God, I have no clue. Like, I just had a blip of the radar, right? You know what I mean? And I think what it's done, though, it's certainly given me a great appreciation for it. And I think, listening to your stories and listening to things that you've been through, man, I mean, there's a genuine respect there because you are here today. You're here with us today sharing a story, and there's a lot of content, right? I mean, we could probably sit here for 3 hours.
Yeah, any given, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
So as you kind of did that, I remember hearing a little bit about like after, your sister had taken her life and so on and so forth, you kind of ended up out on the streets and you kind of ended up in some kind of wild places.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, Saratoga, where I grew up, it's just very well-to-do. We had everything we could possibly want. It was a beautiful childhood. And then, one girl was just, my sister just wasn't getting the love that she needed, I guess, or she just, so when she decided to do that, like, it was just like it took a huge piece of the foundation out from under the family. My dad fell apart. He made some bad decisions. Before we knew it, the banks took our homes. We lost everything. Yeah. So then we were down in a shack, and
your dad was from what I've listened, right? Your dad was a pretty successful, like, real estate.
He was a total badass.
Yeah,
He's a stunt pilot.
He was a baller, like your dad, man. I mean,
entrepreneur, Marine, bodybuilder. He was this larger-than-life character,
Yeah.
And my mom, beautiful, wonderful, loving soul, never left my side, really. She practiced some tough love later on, which is actually pretty much, like, I think, the emptiness I needed to finally get to the point where when everything came to a head, for me to totally turn my life around, it was like she wasn't there, so I finally had to decide to love myself enough to move on.
Yeah.
So I kind of have her to thank for that, but
thanks, Mom.
Yeah,
right on.
Yeah, it's
moms
like
I love moms.
The last time I did a podcast like this with Pinfield was, I went on and on and on, and after I got off the thing, I talked to my mom, and she's crying. She's just in tears, and she's like, "I never forsake you," and I was like, "Did I say you forsake me?" She's like, "You never even brought me up," and I was like, all right, well, every time I get on a podcast or I do any interview from now on,
we love you, man.
Mom, you're the best. I love you to death.
Heck yeah.
She's the best. She's the best thing that ever happened to me and always will be. But yeah, so we lost one thing or another. And then my brother and I were kind of basically on our own to fend for ourselves. And I thought dealing drugs would be the way to take care of myself and pay the rent and everything else like that. So one bad decision after the next just started to happen. The rabbit hole was being dug beneath me. But
and how involved were you in music at this time?
Well, we were already, my band, before we lost everything, I had my own floor at one point in Saratoga up there up in the hills.
Yeah.
And I would throw a party 2 or 3 nights out of the week, and my band was playing every night. We would set up, the whole band was in the living room. I had my own living room on that floor. And just the whole school would be there. So I already had bands.
That's so cool.
I had my own.
What was the name of your first band?
Geez, the first thing I did was
put him on the spot, man.
Yeah, the first actual legitimate band I had was called Paragon. That was the first
right
one.
on.
Yeah, which is like the perfect image, right? I should have kept that name. Butterside's been one hell of a fucking band name to deal with. But
Clark asked a little earlier, he goes, "What's Butterside?" And I think Mike said, "Man, everything's better on the Butterside." And I was like, "Yeah," I can dig that. Yeah.
So we had a really cool kick-ass band. We were covering Metallica and Guns N' Roses and shit like that. So it was like, it was one of the most popular kids in school because of the bands,
Yeah. And you got a pretty fucking amazing voice, so I'm pretty you ripped it out pretty well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So then, there's this whole story about, like, I got kicked out of the state of California because I ended up getting caught with the drugs.
Yeah.
And then they found my father, and I had to relocate and live with him, and I drove him nuts. So we had a huge falling out. That led to me living with a biker gang out there in Carson City, Nevada, the armpit of society. Sorry, Carson, actually, but it's.
So was that kind of like the Sons of Anarchy living? Is what that was? Yeah,
dude, they were cooking bathtub biker speed in the bathtub. They convinced me to go back to California and pick up the acid for them. So there was just like this whole, tornado happening, and we would sit around again, bonfires in the backyard. We were living on a ranch. There was just bikers coming in and out of the place all the time.
Right on.
I had the nickname Trick. Talk about Tricky Nick.
But that's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was the biker club's name on the top of my jacket, and on the bottom it was Trick.
Trick. Yeah. Right on.
Did you have to fight for that name when you joined the band?
No, they gave. Right now he can have it. My dad would make fun of me. I'd come home every now and then. He'd be like, "Hi, Trick."
Oh,
and I'd be like,
"Hey, Dad."
Yeah. but now I would own it, you know.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so then I was there, making a life for myself. I would piss test for my PO.
Yeah.
But the bikers were giving me this golden seal. With
Yeah,
charcoal mixed
Pinfield.
in
Like
there.
I remember listening to this story, man. And you're like, "Fuck, my guy's showing up today. What do I do?"
Yeah, and they were like, "Don't worry about it, man." I'd be like high and fucked up when he'd show up, and I'd be like, pee in the company. He was like, he'd come back. He's like, "Oh, he wouldn't mention anything." So I obviously clean, peed clean. But yeah, and then I finally decided I had a band out there. We the way I met that biker gang was I got kicked out of California literally within 3 days of being in Carson City. I was in a band. Like I
Do they actually escort you to the border and say you can't come back? How do you get kicked out of California?
No, I did. Actually, I think I had to take a bus.
Yeah. The judge just said, "Just don't come back."
Yeah. I mean, well, my father came back and represented me. He was like, again, a total badass. He stepped up and he was just like, he convinced them that like, I'm better off in this program. I was going to serve for 2 years as an adult. So they were just like,
And
they were happy.
How old were you there?
16.
So they're going to charge you as an adult? It's
Shit.
Well, every little hit of acid on a sheet is considered,
Yeah.
Intentional manslaughter.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they wanted to throw the book at me, and he manipulated them and tricked them into letting me go.
Yeah.
Basically, but
Dude, 16.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of. She talk about heavy shit.
We should say hi, Dad, too. At this point,
right. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a lot to even. I mean, as a young man, dude, like trying to figure shit out and damn.
Yeah. That was. Did you ever read the book Go Ask Alice?
I haven't. No.
It's like about like the worst acid trip in the world.
Okay.
Right? And in school, they
Sherry, you're gonna have to pick that one up for me at the library, okay? Please.
So in school, they
Because I might read that. That's something I'd probably be interested in checking out.
They gave us this in school, like thinking it's going to scare you out of, being doing drugs and stuff like that. And I just that night that I went to jail on 12 hits was nothing. Like I put that book to shame in 2 or 3 pages.
I'm not laughing about me, but
No,
yeah.
It was. I mean, it's so traumatic too, and it was just like it's just disappointing my family at every turn. So then I finally moved to L.A. with the band that I had from Nevada, and then I got I met crack cocaine on the streets. The street that we moved onto was just like
filled.
It was like a music festival full of crack addicts. The first time I went to the grocery store, some guy was like, "Hey man, you ever had this?" I'm just like, let me try. I never made it to the grocery store. That was the grocery store from that day on.
So how old were you when you moved from Vegas? Well, from Nevada back to LA?
17. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. 17, 18.
Yeah. I mean, you're still a kid. I
was. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you'd already seen a shit ton, in life in general.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, but I wanted to be Jim Morrison, man.
Well, I get it. Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know. I think music does that to people, but I think that you're like it's wild in different parts of the country, right? Like in the Midwest, I think there's a scene here, and you go to like Chicago, or you go to Detroit, or you go to some of these different places around the Midwest, but LA is a whole different world in itself, man. I mean, I haven't spent an eternity out there, but I think again, like I've had some opportunity there just to kind of see it and respect it,
Yeah, and
I can't imagine living there every day.
I really put some humor into the drug addict side of the whole thing, but to be honest, it's like the whole thing really started when I look back. Again, I look back. The drugs and stuff really started to get prominent as soon as after my sister died.
Yeah,
it was like
I got you.
You're running from this pain.
Yeah.
You don't understand why everybody's upset and sad, so you want something that makes you feel happy.
Absolutely.
So it's like one thing you wear it out. Acid finally was just like I was bored of it. Like it wasn't doing it for me. So then I get to LA and I try crack cocaine and then you try speed and then I was already doing speed, but then you try doing speed different ways, every way you possibly can do it. And then heroin and then but rock and roll was always there. It was like always part of the thing. It was a part of me. I had to be in a band.
Yeah.
I had a band, Mondo Cane, right when I got to LA. I joined this group.
Right on.
And we were touring Southern California and popping out to Hawaii and doing 2
and this isn't like
stints.
what year wise?
91.
Yeah,
something like that.
right on. Yeah, that's cool. So I mean, kind of that like I don't want to say metal rock and roll, whatever, man. I mean, it was still ripping pretty good in 91.
Yeah, the first time I visited Hollywood, it was like 87. We went down there with a buddy of mine. and his girlfriend, and she knew about the strip, you know.
Yeah.
And we came down, and I think Poison was literally playing at Kazari's.
That's
and then,
fucking great.
You know, another huge, like, it was just this huge, it was like a music festival every night of the week down there on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
So I was dying to get down there from the second I saw it. Like,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
This is it. This is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And by the time I got there and actually lived there, it was still going on a little bit, but Seattle was just about to crush us.
Right.
I remember I was listening to, it's a funny story, makes me think of this Marlon Brando thing.
So
but
it's
I
like
was
early
just-
90s you're talking?
Yeah.
Like 91.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we had finally gotten like our sleeping bags and whatever we'd had into this little, it wasn't even a one bedroom. It was a studio apartment. 3 of us are sleeping in
Yeah.
there. And I remember listening to the radio. Pirate radio was on in L.A. And I just won some tickets to like, I was caller number 9. I remember. And it was like I won a trip to the Chinese theater to watch 2 Minutes to Midnight, which is the making of Apocalypse Now with Marlon Brando. So
Wow.
I got picked up
Holy
in a
fuck.
limousine by, I remember shaking Marlon Brando's hand, and it was like the size of 2 hands.
Yeah.
Hey, come on.
Yeah.
Sit down, and we drove to the
That's
theater. I
crazy.
sat right next to him,
That's
and we
really
watched the movie, and we watched the making of it.
Holy smokes.
But the thing that stands out too about that moment was I remember being so excited about it, but then I also remember the same moment. Maybe I might have condensed a few moments into one, but I remember hearing November Rain was coming out.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I was a huge Guns N' Roses
Yeah,
fan.
yeah.
You know?
Who wasn't? I mean,
Yeah. And I remember it ending, and then they were like, and here's something new, and then crack.
Yeah.
It was Nirvana's Nevermind,
Yeah.
or Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Yeah.
And I remember in that moment, I was just like, oh, fuck, there goes the neighborhood, Everything's about to change.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah.
The strip's
well,
totally...
it's interesting you say that because Nikki's around here somewhere, man. We remember working back in the record store around that time, and we would get demos, right? Like the labels would send us demos, and it would just be literally a white CD. And the one that came to us that I will never forget was Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
And it was just literally a white CD, and it said Pearl Jam on it. And that was it. And we threw it in. We're like, what the? This is like something completely different. You know what I mean?
Grunge came in hard, man.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it did. Like you could, if you had anything to do in music, even a little bit, man, you felt that, that change, that thing that happened.
Yeah, and I was already so devoted to the whole glam rock, Guns N' Roses.
Well, who wasn't, man?
Motley
Fuck.
Crue, Sunset Strip thing.
Yeah.
I was holding on for dear life. I was one of these guys that was like, no, I've got my career figured. I know what I want to look like. I know how I need to act. I know I've got it all figured out.
Again, you're like 17,
yeah,
right?
And then the world was like, no, that's not cool anymore.
Had all
And
your
you're like,
leather pants figured out and everything.
but at the same time, I'm saturated in Hollywood, and if you're going from one party to the next, and then like on the everybody's jamming over the stereo, it's like Mother Love Bone and Soundgarden, and it was like all this whole new influx of and you're like, and I'm so grateful for that because I still love all of that old rock, but like thank God it's soul and spirit and like meaningful lyrics, like
angry, just intense.
it was, and then I felt like they were on the front lines with me because I fell hard into addiction. And it was like they were singing the anthem of like, it's okay, we're all going together.
Right, yeah, we're on the
It was
bus,
like,
man.
All right, well, I guess we're all going down with the same ship.
Yeah. So that's cool. I'm with all my buddies,
Yeah.
It's neat. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I want to make sure it kind of work, as we kind of walk through this, man, because I love hearing all these stories. And, like I said earlier, building a refuge, it's one story at a time, right? But your full picture, man, like frames a lot of things, different components up that we talk with a lot of guys that come to our meetings. We do monthly meetings at Harley-Davidson here in Indianapolis, but it frames up a lot of different aspects of life, right? Like we've had a guy that come on here and he was a shit, man, I don't know how many years he was addicted to, coke and all kinds of other shit, stole a bunch of cars, got thrown in jail, but then he found sobriety. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, he found faith. He found a great kind of foundation. We've had other people that have been alcoholics. We had one of my great friends that I've just met in the last few years that have went through alcoholism. And same thing with him, man. But I want to say that because like framing all of it up, Patrick, is important. It's your story, and that's what's cool. You know what I mean? And it gives hope. That's why we do this, right? We want to be able to tell these stories to give hope to people.
Yeah.
And we can laugh about it, right? Because here's the deal. I'm just going to say what it is. Those times are fucking fun. They were fun. Like, I'm not gonna. I mean, listen, we probably didn't see some of the shit that we were doing to ourselves, but like, it was fun times, man. I mean,
at the beginning for sure.
yeah. I
it's
mean,
like,
the day that fucking Tommy and Nikki walked into our record store, dude, I literally about passed out. Like, just like, fuck, these are the guys that, like, as a kid, man, you're like, then they're standing right in front of you.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then all the bands, man, Faster Pussycat, LA Guns, you know, all these bands that, like, I mean, that's just what I grew up with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what got me into rock and roll. But, you know, back to kind of the same parallels, like even with your sister. And I love my sister Brenda because she pulled me into it. I mean, kind of a funny story about my brother. My brother would be laughing about this right now. I mean, he's just kind of that guy. And Brent decided to go see AC/DC, I think it was in 1983, on the For Those About to Rock tour, and he didn't ever fucking come home that night. Like, my mom was so fucking. This is before, you know, cell phones, obviously, and shit like that. She's up. I could hear her just screaming on the phone to one of our other family. She's like, I don't know where he's at. He's not back from this fucking. He comes rolling in at like 6 in the fucking morning. He's like, this is the best fucking concert I've ever been to in my life. You know what I mean? And so, but I mean, you know, it's all that makes up.
Yeah.
Our life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, man? And so I love to hear all of this. Like,
well, going back again to my sister, it's like she would steal me from home, you know?
Yeah.
Like she didn't, you know, not that she loved me and my brother just as, you know, equally, but she would steal me and take me to these parties, you know?
Yeah.
And it made that whole lifestyle look so cool. As a kid, I was just like, wow, my sister's this larger than life character. She's got all this. And, you know, she was just like the life of the party.
Yeah.
But I remember smelling weed for the first time.
Right.
Like later on, you smell it, and you're like, oh, that's what that was. I vividly remember sitting on like a recliner and smelling heroin for the first time at a party. Like, I was like, what is that smell? This licorice kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I would be out with my sister, and the music was cranking, and the girls were naked, and like, I'm just this little kid, and she thought she got a kick.
Yeah.
Like, this is my little brother. Watch him drink beer. Watch him smoke a cigarette. Like, she bought me Marlboro. She's like, look, it looks like the Van Halen, you know, album cover, you know. And I'm like smoking a cigarette.
Right.
But then with that last note of the song being a tragedy where she was gone, you know, I think she kind of bestowed this thing in me that, you know, that's, you know, I got to the end of my rope where, yeah, it was fun. And then, you know, the last decade of it was complete and total hell. I mean, I was sitting in front of a computer screen with freaking so many holes in my arms and blood all over myself. I couldn't find a vein, trying to get high, trying to, you know, maintain some sort of happiness, which never came from any outside source. It was always the drugs.
Yeah.
So it was just a complete and total downfall. I was slamming 6 times a day. I was a complete and total mess. I'd order champagne from Pink Dot in the evening, and I'd get a fifth of Jim Beam from Pink Dot in the morning. Ecstasy was next door at my buddy's place, so that would get me through the afternoon, and then I'd be back to slamming shit all night. All the girls I hung out with were just out of control. They didn't give a shit, you know what I mean? They were cheating on me, and, you know, but at the same time, they gave me a place to stay. So there's this constant... just a spiral, definitely downward. But like you said, Jesus Christ, for some reason there were prayers, you know what I mean? I remember Christmas one year I was trying to sing like Silent Night, you know. I was like trying to celebrate by myself, and I was fucked up, you know. It's just like at the very end, I think the girl I was living with had moved out. I was in this empty apartment with my computer, just doing all types of debaucherous things to myself with the drugs and everything else, just a bender that just felt like it never going to end. It had gone on forever. I had 14 rabbits in my place because, like, I had this one. Anyway, that's another story.
Like rabbits.
You know, my God, rabbits. Like, literally, like.
That's cool. I like rabbits, too.
Yeah, like they're fun, they're soft and furry,
But I feel like there was one night where I remember this moment and the reason I think I remember this moment is because I understand that I think I prayed hard enough that day that like he was paying attention, like, please, like, save me. I was trying to sing this song and I turned it into like it was ridiculous. I'm by myself.
It's not though,
and
man.
I'm going, what did I say? Silent night, fucking. I was like I was so sad, and I remember hearing myself singing so sad. I'm trying to record it, like I'm going to record some great version of Silent Night. And I'm like, Silent Night. I was like, holy shit, like I'm so fucked up. Like, and that was the recording, but at the same time I was praying. It was a very serious moment, but But then fast forward, like, I don't know, 6 months, and like I'd lost that apartment. I was on the streets. I was literally like walking through, like, you know, Darth Vader and Superman and Wonder Woman all down there, like, you know, this seedy Hollywood Boulevard area where they, you know, they charge you for pictures and stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I could do that, you know. But then I also remember my whole life I was telling myself, man, you're not going to make it past 30, you know what I mean? That's it. Like, there's nothing after that, you know?
Right.
So I was done.
Yeah.
And I was going back and forth to the drug dealer's house. I would sell enough to get myself this little tiny little, you know, room at this 777 motel.
Yeah.
And I was trying to kill myself, man. Yeah. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I couldn't talk to anybody. By this time, I swear I couldn't even speak English anymore.
Yeah.
I was the dude that would sit down next to you at the party and was like, and you'd be like, fuck, get me out of here.
Right.
But the breaking moment was, you know, I had my touched by God moment, man. I went down, you know, I definitely think I'd gotten enough. Like, somehow, I remember I was super excited because it was hard for me to make a buck. It was hard for me to get enough dope to you know, and this one day I had just a mound of everything. Like, I had every drug you could possibly want.
Yeah.
And I'm like going back to the hotel room, like, I'm not coming out of this hotel room.
Like, this is it.
I'm doing it. And literally, I stuck a needle in my arm. I registered the blood. I'm getting ready to plow that thing in there. And the thing was full. And I'd been doing that for a while. Like, there wasn't enough room in a syringe to put as much in there as much as my body was taking. I was like 130 pounds. I'm 6'3".
Yeah.
Okay, that's really emaciated. So anyway, I'm getting ready to jab it in, and there's a call comes up on my cell phone. And it was a 775 number, 702 number, sorry, at that time. So it was a Nevada number, which is my dad's area code. And he and I hadn't spoken for years.
Okay.
Like, I had pushed my family completely away.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to know who I was, what I was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want them to know the truth. But in that moment, I'm literally like ready to die. And I'm like, is this my dad? It's not my dad's number, but it's his area code.
Registered.
So something was like, don't do it now.
Right.
Answer the phone. So I answer the phone, and it's my dad's neighbor. My dad's neighbor had stopped by to return some Tupperware from months before. He had no business stopping by. It was just like random.
Yeah.
My dad like lived in this horseshoe-shaped building, and this guy was on this end, and my dad was over here. I mean, you can't see that on the
Right. I got you.
But anyway,
well, you can't look at you on camera. So
he stops by, and my dad's having a heart attack.
Oh, wow.
On the floor. So
what the fuck?
So he walks in and he's like, he calls 911, and then he sees there's a Post-it note on the computer screen. My dad has my number, and it says Patrick Stone, so he figures this is family. So he calls me, and I answer the phone, and he's like, hey, is this Patrick? I'm like, yeah. He says, no, this is Lance. I'm your dad's neighbor. I stopped by to return some Tupperware, like nonchalant. He's like, and I think he's having a heart attack. He's, you know, do you want to talk to him?
Not looking good.
And I'm like, what?
You know?
And he puts,
you probably were literally like, what?
Yeah,
I don't mean to laugh, but it seems like
right.
I know, right?
Yeah. But you can't. You gotta. I mean, you probably have to chuckle a little bit, right? I mean, you just gotta. Okay.
It's the only way to get through telling the story, to be honest. Because
Yeah.
you know, I've broken down crying many times about this point. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he puts my father on the line, and my dad's I can hear choking, you know.
Sure.
And then Lance gets back on the phone. He says, "Look, I don't know if he's going to make it. I did call 911 already, but if you want to see your father," he's like, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in LA." He's like, "Well, you know, you should probably get up here." You know? And I had like tunnel vision at that moment, like you know, everything felt like I was underwater, you know, for months.
Yeah, I'm sure shit got weird. Yeah.
But then there was like this little tunnel of clarity, you know. And I grabbed the one guitar I had left and ran down to the pawn shop. I pawned the guitar. I was high as hell.
Oh, wow.
You know, I had my buddy drive me to the airport. He gave me enough money to get a flight. And there I was, like 2 hours later, I was like up and, you know, 2 or 3 hours later.
That
I was
like that quick.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Holy
it was
shit.
like I ran for the pawn
Yeah,
shop.
yeah.
My buddy met me at the pawn shop, went to the airport,
Straight, yeah.
got on a flight to Tahoe, Reno.
Yeah.
And then on the way to the airport, I got another call from Carson Hospital, and they said, okay, your father, we've treated 3 stents or something they had to put in. He's had a massive heart attack, and they
Right.
said, but then now he's having a major stroke, and in order to, we don't have the specialists here. We're flying him by helicopter to Reno, which is actually closer to where I was landing.
Okay.
But I was just like, it's just this panic, this
Yeah,
moment.
and you're probably not in your right mind anyways, just with what you had walked into before this phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, so I got up there, got to the hospital. I'm sitting by the time I get in the room, he's got staples all through his head.
Oh, wow.
He's all stitched up already, looked like Frankenstein.
Yeah.
He's basically in a coma, and that's when I freaking hit my knees, man. And I just, because fuck,
Yeah.
that's just the shittiest way to end the whole story.
Right.
And I didn't get out like I wanted to. Like,
Yeah.
I was
you did. You did. I mean, it was it's maybe not what you had planned, but
Right.
You got out the best way.
Yeah.
No,
Like,
I mean, it was, I'm telling you, that was God stepped in and touched him in that way so that I could be to this. I mean, it's the most, it's the most incredible miracle after that moment. But I sat and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for days and days and days. I would get sick. I would,
Yeah, you're probably going through withdrawals.
Good old Lance had met me at the hospital, and he drove me home the first night. And I got the keys to my father's van, and his Doberman was there at the house, and and I'd lay down in his bed and get sick and shit and puke myself for hours and hours and hours. I'd get some rest. I'd get up. I would drive back to the hospital.
Yeah.
And I'd pray and I'd pray and I'd pray, and I'd go home and I'd pray and I'd pray and I'd pray. And then, a couple weeks later, my dad squeezed my hand and he came back, and
wow.
it was just this whole thing like somebody had heard me.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, what do I do now? And my prayers had dictated exactly what I was supposed to do. It was like, if I told God, I said, man, if you save my father and save this broken family that I've created, I will never do anything bad to myself ever again.
Oh, wow.
I will go for, I will do everything you put me on this earth to do. And I promise you, and it was real.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's such I'm so blessed, man, that we can hear that story, man. And we can record this, you know what I mean? Because as I said a minute ago, these stories are to create hope.
Yeah.
Right? And hope is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
I have said this, that when you go through things like that and you get to the point in your life, man, where you're just I just call it, man, you tap out, right? You're like, I can't do the shit anymore. Man, he shows up not too early, not too late, but right pinpoint at the right time.
Right.
I mean, it's similar story. I won't go into a long story on this, but the same shit happened to me, man. I was driving back from Detroit from a work trip, and I was listening to a story of a guy telling a story, right? And I've had some experiences in my life where I'd prayed for things and they had come true, right? My amazing wife and our kids and our family, because I grew up in a family where I had a divorced parent situation, but my parents are amazing, right? Loving parents. And I always, have had support and so on and so forth. But I always prayed as a kid, man, I wish I knew what it was like to go home to a mom and dad and sit at a dinner table. And I also had the normal family, right? And when I met Sherry and we had kids, man, it was he showed up one day to me and said, you know what it's like now. And I was like, fuck, man. But I was like, cool. I was like, oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate that, right? You know what I mean? And he's patient. Yeah. He's the most patient dude that you're ever going to run into in your life. Yeah. And then after going through the experience, with my brother, and you understand this, and Clark gets it, man, there's a lot of what the fuck moments.
Yeah, you're so fresh into it, too. 2018, man.
15, yeah, 15.
Oh, 15.
Yeah, and Clark's
still
3 years ago, man.
Yeah.
And so driving back from Detroit that day, I listened to this story, and the moment that it hit me was when I realized, like, man, I can't control any of this shit, man.
Exactly. No, right.
And it, like, dude, he was sitting in my chair in my car, like, you're staring at me right now, man. He said, dude, I don't want you to sweat this anymore.
Right.
Like, let me have it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
And then it's like he grabbed me and just looked me straight in the eyes, and I'm telling you, man, like, that from that day on, it has changed me.
Yeah.
And why I say that is, and I feel this from you too, man. I mean, it's taken all the pressure off.
Yeah.
Like, just, I can breathe. Like, I can just, oh, man.
Yeah.
Like, I can just relax. I can breathe. My pulse rate went from like 120 to fucking 65 like that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's beautiful, Patrick. I mean, you have taken a life, man, and turned it exactly like what Clark has said, man. You've turned things into like this joy.
Yeah.
And that's just amazing, man. And I think it is serious, like these times, and I'm so grateful to be able to have these discussions with folks like you, man. Because like I said, dude, I didn't know you from Adam until that night in Greenfield.
Yeah.
But that's the way the Lord works. And we're not, like, building a refuge isn't like, oh, you need to go get in a church today. I would tell people, like, hey, man, just begin a relationship with Christ. Whatever that looks like for you, cool. Yeah. Like, I'm not pressuring anybody to do anything, because he certainly has never pressured me to do anything, you know what I mean? And he never will put that on me.
Right.
But, man, it has been a complete life changer for me and my family and Sherry and our kids. Like, our kids would tell you, like, they're 29 and 26, man, and they'd be like, yeah, Dad changed.
Yeah.
Like, he was this pretty intense dude, and, like, now he's not this intense dude quite as much anymore, you know?
You're not?
No, well, I try not to be anyways, you know?
I think you're pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, about this stuff,
Yeah.
I am, man, because this is cool shit, man. I mean, because there's nobody doing this shit, Patrick. Like, here in the city, like Clark had yesterday at our meeting, man, he had a high school friend show up from, 30 years ago?
Yeah. Hadn't seen her, probably 30.
And she heard the podcast, man, and she's like, I just love what you guys are doing. And she's like, I just wish there was something for women. Like, what you guys are doing is so cool. She's like, because you're not putting any sort of, like, box around it. Like, we just let it go. And I think, quite honestly, man, I mean, and you can relate to this, that probably a lot of comes from my musical influences, like when I was younger. Right? Because I was a huge fan of the Dead, man, and huge fan of Jerry Garcia. And Jerry Garcia was, man, I don't really give a shit where the music goes. Because when you're in the music's going.
Yeah.
And I don't give a damn where it goes to.
I mean, the biggest thing that surprised me is, as serious as a lot of these topics are, we certainly laugh a lot.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to, man.
Well, yeah, once you found that light, you know, that it brings definitely all that emptiness that you felt all along is filled up with exactly what we're talking about.
That's right.
The light, you know.
And hope, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what is just amazing about this, because I didn't know getting into this, man. Like when we started this back in 2018, like, I wonder where this is going to go. We need to set parameters to it and shit like that, right? Like
people don't understand. It's like you couldn't. It's like I tell my story, and it's like you can't make the shit up. I mean, all the stuff that's happened since is like, I mean, coming right back into LA after. My dad was finally well enough to be on his own again.
Yeah.
You know, I had a friend, of course, and it's all connected. Like I found somebody on Facebook that used to go to high school with me, and she was in the program, so she offered up a place to stay. So, you know, and the guy that lived 3 doors down from my father was out there smoking a cigarette every night.
Yeah.
While I'd be out in the middle of the field. Praying, it's Tahoe, you know, so there's this big snowy field, and there was like a pole, and it had these Christmas lights wrapped around it, and I was like, that's my conduit, right? Yeah. So I would go out there, and I would, be looking up at the stars, but there was this guy smoking a cigarette. You'd see just the cherry. It was dark black, no lights on or anything, but you just see the cherry light up, and eventually, like one night, he was like, hey, you a friend of Bill's? And I was like, who the fuck is Bill? You know? And
it's a random question.
He brought it, Bill is, if you're in the program, if you're watching, Bill is the guy who wrote the book.
Oh, no shit.
You know, so it's like, I was like, I don't know who Bill is. He says, well, Bill wrote the book, or, the AA book. And and I was like, well, that sounds cool. So it's like literally like it was just, he was right there for me. Like I was going to meetings before my dad was even at home.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was in this daze. It was like, it was just like I got picked up. Like you just said, it's like, I didn't even realize it. I still thought I was in control.
Yeah.
But it was like I actually let go when I, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Nikki and I share this all the time. It's like the grateful list. We're both honing in on that, and it's
Yeah,
like
right on.
you know, my gratitude list is just like, you know, it starts off with all of that. Like, I'm so grateful that I am who I am, no matter where I am. Like, you've got to be just super solid and confident that like you're taking the exact step that you're supposed to be taking, because it's, you know, the second that you allow yourself to believe that there's a plan for you, you can actually have the hope that all the things that you want, God and the universe want more for you than you do yourself. All you have to do is walk into it. You just have to, you know, it is work. You have to get up and put your shoes on and go and do it. But
so you went through all this, your lowest point, and then you got back into music.
Well, when I came back to LA, I was like, so I remember when I was high as fuck, there were some people around me that were like doing background work and shit. They would like come into the drug den or whatever and get dope. And they'd gotten their dope money from like doing background work or whatever. And I was like, well,
when you say background, what is that?
Acting.
Oh, okay,
like,
right on.
Like,
Okay,
it's like the lowest level of acting. Like, they let you in to like stand in the background and just be quiet. You know?
Like I could do that.
So what was the first guitar you bought after you got your head cleared?
The first guitar I bought.
Since you sold.
Yeah, since you pawned that one when you went to see your dad.
Well, to be, I got endorsed actually.
Oh, nice.
ESP started throwing me free guitars and shit.
That's sweet.
Hey, free guitars.
Yeah, but coming back into LA, I started doing background work, and the first day, did you guys watch Deadwood?
Yeah.
So like when we were getting, this was like it was so close together.
I think I read something about that you were on that, right?
So the hilarious thing is that when I was still a drug dealer, living with my drug addict, drug dealer. We had this house in Silver Lake, right? And it was just chaotic. Like the guys from Motorhead would come through there, the guys from the Scorpion, every rock star you could ever want to come through that was getting dope from us, you know? And I had this huge studio in the back room. And like an electronic drug, like everything you could want, you know. It's like kind of like this place, except there was, you know, a tweaker in every corner and somebody slamming dope in the bathroom all the time. But we would put on Deadwood every week, and every time they say cocksucker or motherfucker, cocksucker meant you had to take a shot, and motherfucker we had to snort a line. So we were just going every direction you could imagine. But like,
and you probably did a lot because they said that a lot in that film.
That was our that was our favorite show. Yeah. So then, so here, fast forward, like on the flip side of just getting clean, I came back, and my first gig as a background actor was I was playing the part of a cowboy in a parade.
Okay.
And walking down the streets of Santa Ana or Santa Paula, sorry, in Southern California, and there's the casting director for Deadwood was there.
Okay.
And I was dressed up like a cowboy, and they were looking for this guy to murder somebody. They needed like a certain look. So this guy approaches me, and he's like, "Hey, you know, my name's Bill Dans, blah blah blah. Like, we would love for you to be on Deadwood. You know, you have interest in being on Deadwood?" I was like, "Cocksucker, motherfucker, hell yeah, I do." So,
like, bam.
Yeah. So then the next day, I'm at a fitting. This is literally like I'm back in LA for like 4 days. Okay. And I'd worked on one show, and they pay. I mean, to me, $200 for that day was like, what? I got $200. Like, and then it was like I'm going in for a fitting, and they're paying me just to go get fitted, and they're dressing me up like a cowboy, and I'm gonna be on Deadwood. I'm like, Mom, I'm gonna be on my favorite show. Like,
it's badass.
Like, what more evidence do you need that I've made the right choice and that I should keep going? You know? Keep
so
that
let me
promise.
ask you this really quick. So how far out was that from you? Like, I want to say getting sober, or how far was that from you? Like, the moment you just spoke about, right? To like saying, "Hey, I got a clean mind," and so on. When you went back to LA, how much time was that?
And what year was that?
That was we're about 2 months after. That was 2.5 months probably around
sober,
clean and sober. Yeah, because the day that happened, the day that happened with my father was it. That was it.
Okay, so that was it.
Yeah, that night I got to his place, and there were like literally, I don't know how I consumed this much, but there were 3 bottles of vodka up there, and I was whacked. You know, So I drank all 3 of those bottles. Somehow.
Yeah,
of vodka.
I get it. Yeah, I get
I
it.
woke up, there was no more left. There was nothing. I was like, that's it.
So that's crazy though when you think about, like we were just talking about a little bit earlier, like how you say, yeah, you know, I was in control, but I'm really not in control. And 2 months after that, you're like landing already like a gig doing something, and you're like $200 is fucking great.
Just one after that, one after. So then the Deadwood thing. I'm on the set, and I didn't know right from wrong on the set, so I'm chumming up with this dude that like turns out to be the producer, you know, David Milch, the writer of the show.
You're just talking to him, right? Yeah.
Dude, I walk up to him and he's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm great. I just quit heroin. I fucking feel it." And you know what he says to me? He was like, "Man, I quit heroin too. I was a heroin addict." He's like, "I want to show you something really cool." And he takes me into what was the Gem Saloon for the show, right?
Okay.
And every month he would do an auction, or not an auction. He would do a raffle, right? They would fill this big bowl with all of the names of the crew and the cast.
Okay.
And the crew, not the
Yeah,
cast. The
yeah.
cast had plenty of money, but
Yeah.
and the crew makes plenty of money too. Those guys make a really good living. But he would pick a name out of the hat, and he would read off the name in front of everybody once a month.
Yeah.
And then that person got like $25,000.
Oh, no shit.
Because that's how much
Oh, that's
he
a
used
nice
to spend
bonus.
on dope.
Oh,
And he was
sweet.
no
Had all that
way.
extra money now.
He was like, "This is my
Sweet.
dope money. I'm giving this away now for good
Get
instead
out.
of for destruction."
Yeah.
So then I was just like, "Whoa, like, dude, these are the people I want to be with."
You're
know?
like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and then like they gave me some lines. I got my SAG card. Like it was just
Yeah.
like this. What is going on?
The word
And,
lines, not the lines that you draw out on the.
Thank you. Yeah, the better. Yeah.
Different kind of line. Different kind of line.
And then I moved out from the girl I was living with into like the makeup artist for Deadwood, right? She invited me, so I was living closer to the set. So I was going back and forth to set, living with this. I had a room at her place, renting a room from her. She introduced me to some music, and the music was from church. It was this guy, Matt Bayless. I listened to this guy singing about God, and for the first time, it wasn't like this hokey church music that I was used to. It was like this soulful kind of it was almost rock, you know, but this purpose and this, the feeling that you get from that. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I really want to check this out. So she drags me to church, which was like, I swear there were maybe 6, 7 people there for the service, right? And it was in a movie theater there in Santa Clarita, right? And this guy's up there singing this beautiful music, and I'm just like, wow, you know. And after the service, I'm like, man, I really want to do what you do. And he's like, well, here, learn these songs, you know. So I go home and I learn the songs, and then one day he couldn't come to service, so then I'm singing songs in front of the service, and it's growing,
That's
and
so
it's
cool.
growing, and it's growing, and then before I know it, the movie theater's full, and the movie theater says, you have too many people, you have to move out. So then we get this small little sister church, gives us one little room in their place, and then we're filling that room up, and then we move from that one into another church, and there I am leading.
Your cup runneth over.
Dude, it's so awesome.
Leading worship. I'm playing Jesus in the play.
Yeah.
It's at 2,000 people. We've got our own building. It was insane. And people are coming up to me one after the next after every service, just like, man, you're touching me. I'm just like, what the hell is happening? Like, everything that I used to take in and be so selfish about and destroy lives with is now like overflowing, coming out of me, and I'm getting this great joy that was better than any high I ever had.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? Just tingling, and I'm getting it right now.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So what's crazy is, Patrick, is where we go to church, man, we meet in a bar about a mile from here.
In a bowling alley.
In a bowling alley. A bar and a bowling alley. That's what came to me the night my brother took his life. Literally, the dude that showed up is the chaplain for Fisher's PD and fire department here. His name's Rusty Kennedy. He's been on our show. Dude, he would love that whole 10-minute segment right there, man. I cannot wait for him to hear it, because he would he's going to absolutely love it. But he showed up that night, and I remember walking up the stairway, and there was this dude standing in the kitchen at my mom's house, and you know how all fucking crazy it gets. And I was like, man, I hope this dude's not a frickin' priest or minister or whatever. Like, I'm just not in the place to deal with one right now. But something told me, like, just introduce yourself. That's all you got to do. Like, I remember hearing just introduce yourself. So I turned around and said, hey, man, I'm Brandon Leum. My brother is Brent. And
I just can't imagine you not wanting to talk to somebody.
yeah, well, there's times, and I'm fairly social, dude. I love people, dude. That's why I love doing this. But I was just like, hey, I'm Brandon. I'm Brent's brother, blah, blah, blah. And he said, hey, my name's Rusty Kennedy. I'm the, local chaplain. He's like, I'll just sit back you don't have to talk to me. And he literally told me, he's like, I'll just sit back. If you guys need me, just let me know. But we just started developing this great friendship, man. And he showed me how to build a relationship with Christ. Like he helped me build that relationship, right? He'll tell you, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And I'm like, yeah, and I know it wasn't you, but it was you. And so it's just, man, it's so cool to hear that story, because you're right, man. Like everything changes. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but everything does change. Like my life changed after that. Like I've been blessed. Like I said, I got an amazing wife, amazing kids, things like that. But mentally speaking, my mindset changed completely as it relates to like looking at life and looking at different things, and fuck doing this.
Yeah.
Like, are you shitting me? If somebody would have told me, hey man, you're going to go through this super shitty deal, but in 5, 6, 7 years from now, man, you're going to be hanging out with some wonderful people, like doing shit that you absolutely loved as a kid. Like this shit I was into. Like, man, when I was a kid, I was fucking tape decks recording and playing my own shit and trying to play guitar and trying to do all this shit. And I'm sitting here with, with you guys today.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, man.
It gets so dark and dire, when you're, people that are there, they don't, and anybody that hears this, if they're struggling, it's like, and you're there, I know it sounds crazy to believe that there's something on the other side of it and that it can be this great. Like it sounds like a bunch of bullshit to somebody who's suffering, because it just seems so impossible to get on that side of it. But
there is light at the end of the tunnel.
It's just a choice,
Yeah,
and
it is.
It's having some faith that you were born for a reason, and that's not the one. And like for a guy like me who couldn't get away from every dealer and junkie and devil and demon that is that every, that's what you're going to get when that's what you're thinking and that's what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
That's what's going to come to you. That's what's going to consume you. So
definitely manifest your own destination.
Yeah. But then on the flip side, to be hanging out with, actors and writers and producers and songwriters.
Could you have ever imagined this, man? Like back when you were, like you mentioned a little while ago, like, man, fuck it, I'm not going to even live to 30 anyway. So what the fuck?
Right. Yeah.
Could you imagine, like, if Patrick could have went and told that dude?
Yeah. Well,
would you have even listened?
No. Hell no.
You'd be like, there's no way.
There's no way. Yeah. There's this kid I used to go to school with. We were best friends in like junior high and all through high school, and we'd be out like we'd sneak out every night. We were drinking every night. We became total drunks, and he's been on that path. And if he hears this, I hope he's not offended. And I need to call that guy because it's been a few. But like when everything started to turn around, I wanted to share this with him, and I would call him and I'd be like, dude, I'm recording music with Slash and Duff from Guns N' Roses. And he's like, all right, and I hear him drinking his beer, I'm like, no, I'm recording music with Slash and Duff from Guns N' Roses.
Like this is real
and
shit.
He's like, yeah, whatever, man. And then like, I send him the songs
awesome.
and I talk to him like a week later and I'd be like, dude, did you hear it? And he's like, what? I'm like, I sent you the shit. And he's like, oh, no. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
dude?
listen to it.
Like, you can't, like, we were best friends. Like, and he's still to this day. Like, now last time I heard from this poor guy, he was living in his broken down car in a Walmart parking lot in North Carolina without a job.
Man.
And I still hear him chugging on the beer on the other end of it. And I try to talk to him, try to make some, and he doesn't want to hear it. He feels like I'm preaching to him and maybe I'm full of shit, but it's just like, no, man.
Yeah.
But you can't force people,
No, I get you. You can't. And I'd say this, man. I do believe this. I know that the way that this energy works and this thing works. I mean, it wouldn't be surprised if you get a phone call.
I got a call.
I mean, you know what you get it, dude. Like you understand this. Like what you've been through, you get this. You get like, man, I am not surprised by crazy shit that happens anymore. I mean, Rusty's told me that, dude. He goes, when you look at something and go, what the fuck? Yeah. He's like, don't be surprised. He's like, just don't be surprised. Yeah. And that's a beautiful thing, right? I mean, that's the one thing that I think is so cool. Let me ask you this, because I think, in terms of how you've helped and how you're helping us too. But like, are you actively like doing anything today, like that you're still a part of like the AA groups or different groups like that?
Every week. I've got 3 sponsees right now.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
That's kick ass.
Yeah. And I've found the most beautiful network of people, we can't really name names, but do some people that like everybody in the world wants to meet. I meet with once or twice a week.
Right on.
And and every time I get a call from one of my sponsees, you know, I'm like, oh shit, like, you know, here we go. I've got to do something. You know, I've got to make their life better. And then, you know, halfway through the phone call, I'm like, damn, I'm receiving, you know?
Yeah.
Walking somebody through the steps, you're like, whoa, I missed that the first time I went through, and you find yourself really growing more and more. I still go to church every Sunday.
Yeah,
The Mosaic Church is right around the corner from my house.
Yeah.
And that's my moment. I just fill up with tears and empty it all out once a week, you know?
Man. I told Rusty, man, I texted him today. I was like, hey, man, we're shooting this podcast this morning, but I said, we're kind of having church today, dude. And he was like, right on. He's like, yeah, you'd go, man. And he just, like, he's so funny, man. I told him one day, I texted him or something. I was like, man, people I think like I'm a Jesus freak. He's like, you are.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess I kind of am. I don't know.
In Hollywood, it's crazy. Everybody's got a different name for what it is. You know? And then everybody can call it what they want.
Yeah,
and
I'm
glad we've got
cool
a name
with that.
for it. I'll tell you one thing. I'll bet you, you know, I'll put money down that, like, if you're about to, you know, you get in a car wreck and like your life flashes before your eyes, how many people that said that they didn't believe.
Oh yeah.
Well, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right.
Oh Jesus.
Well, no, man. Like it's crazy that you said that. We just had somebody on our podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he's a military veteran. And again, thanks to all of our veterans, man. And he kind of challenged somebody on that one time, man. Like they were getting ready to go and like they were getting ready to go into some shit, right? And this dude had, you know, like one of his buddies in his team, you know, kept saying, I don't believe in any of that shit. I don't believe in any of that shit. Well, shit got, like, it got real. Like, it got real, you know, in a firefight or whatever. And this dude was praying. And, of course, Kyle would love this. Kyle's like, what the fuck, man? He's like, you're praying now?
Yeah.
Like, he's that kind of dude. Like, he'll call him straight out, man. And so that was pretty awesome that, you know, like, it's right. I think you're 100%. But here's the thing. I'll also say this. I think the dude that we believe in and the dude that you know and Clark knows and everybody knows here, he's okay with that. You know what I mean? He'll allow you to go do all your...
Hey, man, the same way that you can call whatever you want to call a gender person, you know, and they want to identify as a certain thing, it's like, okay, I'll call you whatever you want me to call you, but to me, you're always going to be the same thing. You know, you find the, you know, the light in you, the love in you.
Yeah.
That's who you are. I don't give a fuck what you want to call it.
That's right.
So whatever you want to call that, it's the same thing, man. You want to call it, you know, hocus pocus, call it hocus pocus, but like, you know, at the end of the day, it's...
I love it, dude. Like, man, we need to have Patrick back. Like,
oh, hell yeah.
You need to be back. You need to be back here like every... We're just going to fucking fly you out, man, and just have you on like every 6 weeks, dude. We can jam and hang out, but...
Dude, right, I gotta come back here. First of all, I just need I need a day with that Sin City thing.
Yeah, right?
Man.
Isn't it sick? And that is, I'm gonna give Gavin a shout out here. Gavin Good, man, he's been a big supporter of Building a Refuge as well. He's a veteran and international artist, man. He's sold pictures all over. He actually did a really cool Ghost Rider picture for our Harley event recently. That's fire, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a lot of fire on it, but it's super cool. All right, so I want to do this too because I don't want to be remiss to do this because, you know, we get so much time on this before the studio guys be like, you got to get off this thing. It's going to run it too long.
Yeah.
Talk to us about Butterside, dude. Like, I mean, it's a badass band. It's fun. Like, and not only that, listening to some of your podcasts, man, like you love doing videos and your videos are great, by the way. So
I watched a couple of them. Yeah, they're
like
really well done.
Love the Joker. That's a sweet ass video. The planes are badass, man.
That was to my father.
And the Power Hour. Oh, okay. So was your dad Air Force?
No, he was a Marine, but he was a stunt pilot.
Oh, right on.
You know, we would wake up on a Saturday morning. He'd throw us in his 2-seater, you know, stunt plane, Swift, and we would fly over the Santa Cruz Beach boardwalk upside down and bust the surfers off into us. You know,
that's kick ass.
Hey, kids.
We finally lost him.
But tell us about because man, look, man, I want people to know.
That's the best,
dude. Patrick, I want people to know who you are. You're a beautiful soul, man. You got a great heart, and I don't know that night seeing you with Sweet FA and those guys. Like I would have never thought, like back in the 90s, man, we'd be sitting here in 2023 talking about Sweet FA today still, right? But man, you've relived that. But talk to us about Butterside, man.
Yeah, Butterside's, you know, it's the craziest freaking name you'd ever think of. I mean, I kind of challenged myself.
How did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just the we have T-shirts that say, you know, what the fuck does Butterside mean?
Well, I'm getting one of those. Yeah,
it's finally
that's exactly what I said.
But you know, Lemmy signed me initially. You know, I was a roadie for Lemmy in Motorhead.
She's nuts.
And so you know, he always encouraged me. You know, we would write lyrics together, which actually ended up on a lot of Motorhead records in the back of the bus. And he would always tell me, he's like, "Fuck, man, when you're ready to fucking dude, for real, I got your back. And I was always like, fuck, I'm not ready to do anything.
I can't even imagine that.
I'm like, I don't even I'm barely being able to tune these guitars. See, I'm not ready to do my thing, you know. But then I was out with like Steven Adler singing for Steven and doing all these Guns N' Roses songs, and Steven just, you know, one decision after the next was just kind of leaving me a little bit in no man's land, and I finally was like, fuck it, Lemmy, let's do this. Todd Singerman, his manager too, also, you know, was very supportive of the whole thing. So he gave, you know, and that was the thing. I was like, he's like, what's the name of the band? And I was like, it's Butterside. And he was like, fucking right on. And I was like, if it's good enough for him, fuck everybody else.
Like one of my favorite quotes of Lemmy, I could just hear him saying it, man. He was like, fucking run it up the flagpole, man. It's
exactly.
fucking fire.
Yeah, so, you know, after you have that stamp of approval, it's just like anybody that gives you lip about the name, like, it makes you laugh. And it's like, who gives a fuck? And like before I knew it, you know, and then I've had a few band member changes, you know what I mean? I had to do some things I needed to do for the band.
Yeah, right on.
And, you know, everybody kind of comes in, and that's the first thing we got to change the name. And then I'm like, dude, I've been around the world 3 times already with this, you know, even if it's maybe 2 or 3 t-shirts in every city across the globe. There's a Butterside t-shirt. That's enough reason to like not change the name, you know. So when I get back into town, I want those 3 people at the show in fucking Stockholm or where the fuck we were. So
it's so kick ass.
Yeah, so it's just like it's you know, it's a testament to the tenacity, it's a testament to the you know, the courage to keep going.
Yeah,
you know?
right on.
So but yeah, Butterside's, it's my heart and soul. It's everything I have. It's like I finally got a group of guys that are just, I mean, I'm the weakest link in the room, and I love that. You know, we've got Elliot Larongo from Corey Taylor's bands working with us a little bit more periodically now. Sam Bam Colton works with Dorothy, and he's out with Faster Pussycat right now.
Oh, right on, yeah.
He's the most phenomenal guitar player of our generation.
Okay.
You know, he did a show with Dorothy and Slash the other night at the Troubadour.
Okay.
And Slash was just, you know, watching him like I watched Slash when I was a kid, you know. So phenomenal musicianship, you know. Logan's out with a Pretty Reckless, you know. We've all got our fingers in a lot of different pies. I'm singing for Sweet F.A. and the legendary Sweet. But Butterside is where we come together. We always make sure we're writing. We've just released our 7th song of 12, which is leading up to an album release, hopefully in the fall. Okay. We're releasing a song every 6 to 8 weeks, along with the most phenomenal music videos you've ever seen.
Yeah, dude, the music videos are fire. They're kick ass.
Again, totally God's work, but like everything that's like, I just don't know where the money comes from. You know what I mean? I see the bill, like I did my taxes for 2020 because I've missed a few years, and I'm looking at this sheet. I'm like, where did I get like $350,000 I spent last year on this band? And like here I am, like, you know, eating top ramen and shit. Like what? It's all that matters to me. I pour everything I have into it, whether it's the lyrics or my time. It's just like.
But you get so much out of it, man. I feel that on you. Like, and like I said, after, you know, being introduced to you and so on, and doing a little research and listening to podcasts and things like that, I mean, you can feel it, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the best. It's like, you know, it's been a long time coming. It's been, I mean, it's I mean, it's, you know, it's not an overnight thing.
No.
But again, to have Lemmy champion the name, and then to have, you know, you got Katie Babbs from Octane and Matt Pinfield from MTV and Josh Bernstein, you know.
Dude, I'd have loved, like, when I would go to Vegas on work trips, because, you know, Vegas, he loved Vegas, right? I would just go to the shithole casinos just to try to find Lemmy. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was just one moment. Man, I just want to run into him somewhere. You know
never found him?
No.
Damn it.
I did get to see Motorhead a couple times live, though, so I'm good with that. I enjoyed my Motorhead shows, man. And Sherry knows that I love Motorhead, so she'll be like, what are you listening to?
If you don't love Motorhead, you can fuck off.
Yeah, right? You know? Literally fuck off, man.
Yeah. You know what's cool is that if you had seen him somewhere, he would have loved to have
No, I know. That's the thing. Like, when you watch interviews and stuff like that with him, man, like random people, that he would absolutely take the, and you know this best. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but like he would just take time to hang out and talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, and that was like, again, something that was put in my lap that I didn't realize in the beginning. Because in the beginning, I thought I would keep up and do as much speed as they could, and that was, you can't. That dude's built differently. He was built differently.
Oh yeah, he was.
And the rest of the guys too. I mean, Phil's just as crazy as he is, and I mean, the shit that I've seen just with those guys is like, but like they have that keep it together. Like, you know, Lemmy could do, he could stick a knife into a bag of crystal meth, swallow, more than you've done in your life in one go, and then sit there and talk to you about,
Yeah, like,
Edgar Allan Poe until dawn,
nuts.
and know more about it than anybody else in the room does. And his knowledge, and he would just always be reading, and he just always had it together.
Yeah.
He would never seem like he was strung out or sprung out, or he was always just so
like, he's
collected
just
and cool.
super cool.
But
Like,
also, yeah, the lessons that I got from him were just how to treat people. And
yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say. Like, if you went up, like, if you showed genuine respect, like, hey, let me just don't want to, but if you'd show, man, he'd be like, yeah, right on, mate.
Yeah,
bring it in.
That's where the real life is. You know what I mean? The one-on-one interactions, like meeting. So, after shows, I'm always super excited to meet new people.
Yeah.
And talk to them and just dive in. And I seem to accumulate a bigger family every single time. And then I turn around and I'm like, that person's still here that I met the last time, and I've already had that moment with.
It's kind of weird, like we were talking about, just our faith and so on, man. He said, "He just wants you to love everyone, man. Just believe in him and love everybody. And if you do that, like, it's crazy, like what comes to you.
Yeah,
it's crazy, I mean, and that is just, I just think that's such an amazing way to look at life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then you trip too because you look at, whoa, there's somebody else that's like me, and they're actually, it's just, just so grateful.
Well, before we wrap up here, I got to tell you a funny Slash story. So, again, this is heartland of America, right? So I used to work, this is back in the day of Karma days, but I used to work for a guy out at the Indianapolis 500. And so, super guy, he's kind of well-connected, was in some of the promoting companies here in the city anyways. And so after the 500 back, I think it was in 91, I'm pretty sure it was, he calls me on a phone, not on a cell phone. He's like, hey, man, you want to go to Guns N' Roses tonight? And I'm like, well, fuck yeah, I want to go to Guns N' Roses, man. He's like, all right, man. He's like, we'll pick you up. You got to meet us at this gas station over off 96th Street. And there's, like, out here-wise, there was nothing back in the day, dude. So Deer Creek, as it used to be called, is only about maybe 2 miles from here, just to the east of us, anyways, back this way. And it's a pretty well-known music venue for the Midwest. A lot of bands love playing it because it's just an open shed, man, 30,000 people roughly, and just a cool place. So anyways, we go out there, and there's nothing. This is 1990. There's nothing out there. There's a cornfield and a music theater, right? So we pull in. It's me and our buddies, Al Unser Jr., Indy 500 race car driver, Go Al, right? We pull up to this place, we get backstage, pull in, and I'm like, well, this is pretty fucking cool, right? We go into the green room, we're hanging out, get front row, skid row, Guns N' Roses, man, probably one of the best frickin' shows, just 2 rockin' bands, right?
I saw that tour, yeah.
Yeah, it's just amazing, right?
I saw that
Isn't it
concert.
hard? This is the prime of it, So then after the show gets over, and by the way, Axl obviously...
Yeah, it took a half an hour
Yeah,
intermission.
well,
Like, didn't come
you
out.
got
for,
lucky. Only
So
half an
here's the
hour.
deal. Well, this is what happened. So obviously, he's like, F Indiana, this fucking curfews and all this bullshit. So in Indiana, like after 11 o'clock here, they, they'd get fined. Well, he never came out on stage until 11 o'clock. He's like, I'm starting the show at 11. So anyway, show gets over. We go backstage, we're hanging out, and my buddy's like, hey, man, do you mind hanging here for a little while? Because I want to talk to some of the guys that I know. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't care. So I'm sitting back on like on this backside where there's a little green area and so on and so forth. And Duff comes walking by, and he's back there with his family and shit. They were in town and so on and so forth. And I'm just sitting on this box drinking a Heineken, and here comes fucking Slash walking out. He fucking plops right up next to me, man. He's like, hey, can I get one of those? I was like, yeah, absolutely, man. And I was like, fucking sitting next to Slash.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is this? So we just start rapping, like normal and just talking about shit. And he's like, so do you live around here? And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I live like maybe 7 miles from here. He's like, he's just looking around. He's like, oh, he's like, you really live pretty close to here? He's like, there's nothing out here. So when you came in, man, you know what I mean? You're like, Indiana is like a different place, right? I mean, you come in, there's cornfields, and there's like this farm Midwest land. But I think he kind of got a genuine kick out of like, dude, like you live here? I'm like, yeah, like it wasn't reality, you know?
But isn't Axl's from here, no?
Oh, well, Axl is, he's from Lafayette.
Yeah,
But
so
I mean, I think just in general, like Slash, if I've read a lot about, I mean, these guys are, I don't want to say heroes, but I guess they were, right? Man, you read about them.
For sure.
And so, you read about his lifestyle growing up in LA and his family and all that shit. And I just think it was funny because I think he's like, damn, like you live out here in this vast nowhere.
Yeah.
But there's this music venue, man, where we just played in front of like 30,000 people. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, he's so much larger than life.
oh, wow.
I see a lot of the same in Sam that I saw in
Yeah.
And Slash. It's a funny story. Talk about our heroes. Like I had a Guns N' Roses tattoo coming into LA. That was like my second tattoo was a Guns N' Roses tattoo that's
Okay.
here, right? And I'd gone to Bar One right around the time I got to LA, maybe maybe a year in or whatever. And there Axl was standing at the bar with like, a bunch of super, Victoria's Secret model looking women, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy fucking shit, there's my guy, there's the dude, there's like my source,
Yeah.
And so I'm walking through everybody going to the bar and we make eye contact and I peel up my shirt and I show him my tattoo. Motherfuckers start laughing at me, dude.
Oh,
and
no
then
way.
all of his girlfriends start laughing at me. And I put my tail between my legs and I leave the damn club, right?
Yeah.
So then fast forward to after I get sober. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
Lemmy was the one who called Slash, right? And said, I call you fucking new singer for Velvet Revolver, So then I get a call from Matt,
fucking so awesome.
And I never actually got in the room with Duff and Slash and all those guys to record. It was like they sent me these demos and I recorded stuff and then they liked it and then I recorded some more. But it did lead up to the time where I'd met Slash at a few clubs and then he warmed up to the idea of coming out and playing with my band Aces and Eights. We had some mutual friends and facilitated that whole thing. But the funny story was that the morning that I found out, okay, I'm finally going to share the stage with this guy.
Yeah.
I ran down to the tattoo shop and had it covered up.
Nice move.
Did you share the story with him though, or no?
I didn't.
Yeah.
The funny thing is talk about sitting next to him. So the next time I saw him after that, because he took off because the place was fucking going crazy that night. It was the Viper Room, The place was like people were just stuck together. There were people down the street. Like the word got out so fast.
Oh yeah.
And we got up and tore through like I don't know 2 or 3 songs.
Yeah, right on.
GNR and Aerosmith shit. But so then he left and I was just like, fuck, I want to talk to him, And the funny thing that night too, Steven Adler jumped up on the drum set and nobody knew he was going to be there. So that was the first time they had played together.
Oh wow.
Since the breakup, right?
Yeah.
And then I caught Adler's attention, and then fast forward a few months, that's when I got got a call about auditioning for him.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to be in the band with Slash, but then they all formed, like Slash did his solo record, and then he disappeared. But I didn't catch him that night. But then I'm at a movie theater in Sherman Oaks, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with my girlfriend. We're like randomly went. Like I lived in West Hollywood. I don't know what we were doing out in Sherman Oaks at a movie theater, but we went to see this movie, and then in comes Slash with his kids and his wife, and they sit down right in front of us.
Oh, no way.
And I'm like, fuck, what? So I literally like popped
Jump.
next to him, and he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like, bro, we just shared the stage, and he's like, oh yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
And then the lights go out, and he's like, just starts eating his popcorn. I'm like
Normal
okay,
people,
I
right?
guess that's it, I guess that's it, yeah.
That's cool, man. Well, Patrick, look, dude, I can't thank you enough. I mean, this has been such a blessing.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
I mean, such a blessing just to listen to your story, and quite frankly, just listen to the story I hope that you have, man.
We got to get you to talk some more on this.
Yeah, right?
Man, I was just
Clark is the best
tried,
MC. Yeah.
I tried to get some words in. You guys were going at it pretty hard.
Yeah, right. Well, Clark, no. I mean, I just get fired up on this shit, man. I mean, I love, and you're an amazing guest. You have an amazing story, dude. I mean, look, obviously, too, the music is a big part of it. More importantly, man, your story of what you've been through, Patrick, and not only the loss of your sister, right? Huge thing, commonality between all of us, and then all of the things that happened, after that in life. But it's just a beautiful story, and I want people to know that listen to this. Like, listen, we can laugh. We can, I guess, shed some own vulnerability and light on our own life that we have. Clark said it best, man. Life's a tragedy with joy, right? And it truly is. I mean, I don't know anybody in this world that's not going to go through some shit in life, right? And we've just tried to create this community here at Building a Refuge, man, where dudes can just chill and relax. And it's not, I don't want to say it's just guys. We do focus on guys. But, look, man, if you're a better boyfriend, if you're a better husband, if you're a better brother, whatever, to your family because of something like this, then so be it, man. I'm down with that. So we just can't thank you enough, bro. And I can't wait till you come back to Indiana again, whether it's with Butterside or Sweet FA or whoever. You got to let us know, right? So we can get to the show and hang out.
Same with coming out to LA, man. Hit me up. Yeah.
We can make a trip to LA, right? Or we could do another remote podcast out there, right?
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
All
that'd
right.
be pretty sweet. So
I'm down for that.
yeah, but if you are struggling out there, really quick, if you are struggling, you're going through something, as we kind of talked about, man, a couple of the resources we mentioned up front, you can text the word refuge to 494949, the National Suicide Hotline at 988. And especially thank you to all of our veterans. But Patrick, thank you, buddy. I mean, fucking kick
Oh,
ass,
yeah.
man.
And anybody
Just-
out there, you want to DM me on my Butterside Instagram,
All right.
BUDDERSIDE.
Right on.
On Instagram, you DM me if you're ever in trouble. You need anything, you hit me up. I'm always right there.
We'll put that definitely. We'll put that up as a flash at the end of this, so people
Yeah.
have that, man.
Yeah.
So awesome, dude. You have a great
Thanks for
trip
coming
back
in,
to.
man.
Thanks, guys.
Right on. Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Peace.
Clear.
It is well within my soul. Jesus built me a refuge, someplace I can run to, a place we now call home.